Hi, I am Shannon Ellis, the K-12 Mathematics Supervisor for Arlington Public Schools. I am here today to speak with several educational leaders about the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative, or VMPI. Mathematics is near and dear to my heart. It saddens me to hear so many people say, I'm not a math person, or to see such highly motivated math students walk away without a depth of knowledge of mathematics or struggling to apply the mathematics in which they have learned. So this is why I am so excited about the work of VMPI. My hopes is that after you hear all of the leaders today, you are as well. So let's begin. What is VMPI?
Well, VMPI, the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative, is really a joint endeavor between the Virginia Department of Education, SHEV, which is the state higher ed organization, and then VCCS, which is our Virginia Community College system. And the initiative really started through a book talk that we had with a group of higher educators and teachers, and it was around the Catalyzing Change book from NCTM that came out in 2018. And that book put together some recommendations about how we need to make some changes in high school mathematics in terms of why we learn mathematics and the concepts that students are learning in mathematics. So that book talk allowed for a group of about 25 folks to come up with a list of recommendations and next steps for Virginia. And so the VMPI initiative grew out of that book talk. And from there, we've actually been able to establish the initiative to really center around the Virginia's Profile of a Graduate, where we feel that students need to have options in terms of mathematics. There needs to be more than one pathway for students to learn mathematics. And the NCTM book talks a lot about how we've had this structure of Algebra 1 geometry and Algebra 2 in mathematics and high school mathematics for many, many years. Actually, back to the late 1800s is when it first started. And we really need to think about is the mathematics that we're asking kids to learn what all students need. We do certainly, respect that students need to work towards college and career, and a lot of the mathematics that we do teach today is very pertinent to that goal. But there's also mathematics and applications of mathematics that we need to steer some students towards. So the Pathway Initiative really hopes to address the ability to let students move in different directions and have different options in mathematics.
Why is this work important?
Well, the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative really looks at the idea that college and career readiness is very important for students, but the current structure that we have really drives all students towards thinking about moving to calculus by the time they're at the end of high school, or at least readying them for taking it in college. And a lot of the majors in college don't really require calculus. In fact, there was a national study that was done that about 72% of college majors don't even require calculus. And there's so many other new majors that are coming out in data science and logistics and all the other things in STEM fields that we could really be helping students look at statistical models and data analysis, and how can we create additional mathematics pathways that are rigorous, but that help students to move forward in other dimensions besides our traditional math trajectory, which is certainly still needed and important, but we really need to take a hard look at what is it that students need to be learning based upon their own goals and based upon their own choices. And the Mathematics Pathways Initiative really helps provide students those options, provide them those choices.
Through my work as the Virginia STEM coordinator, I've talked to a lot of different higher ed institutions as well as a lot of businesses, and they're asking for more depth in math. They're asking for people to obtain the skills that they can apply in different scenarios, and that looks a little bit different. I think we've been pushing to make sure that we go through so much math so quickly, but this is an opportunity for us to take a look at that, because employers and higher ed is looking for how can these students apply math in different scenarios? How can they think about math a little bit differently so that way they can solve the next problem on their own? Can they think outside of a box and outside of a piece of paper? So it's an expansion of what we're already doing. It's an opportunity to be able to dig a little bit deeper, maybe find our own passion and interest in math and see where that can lead us. I think the Pathways also does a fantastic job of identifying different directions that people can go. There are so many more organizations out there looking for people right out of high school and maybe with just a 2-year degree to start some pre-engineering programs. I've talked to institutions that are interested in people that are doing this, and to be able to better prepare them in terms of statistics, in terms of some of the deeper thinking, some of the applications. It's different than the course that we put most people on right now. I think that's a great opportunity to better prepare youth to be able to jump straight out of high school, more into work or into certification programs.
Thank you. That was great information. So what are the goals of VMPI?
The goals of the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative are to improve equity in mathematics learning opportunities, empower students to be active participants in a quantitative world, encourage students to see themselves as knowers and doers of mathematics, identify K-12 mathematics pathways that support future success, and collaborate with multiple stakeholders to advance mathematics education.
Thank you. So ultimately, the goal is advancing mathematics education based on what we have learned about how students learn mathematics, as well as how to best help them use mathematics and apply it.
Exactly. To make the mathematics that they are learning meaningful so they can become creative problem solvers and better critical thinkers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Lane, thank you for being here. Virginia is not the only state initiating high school mathematics pathways work. Approximately 23 states are involved in the College Board of Mathematical Sciences Forum on high school to college mathematics pathways, in conjunction with the Charles A. Dana Center at the University of Texas, Austin. State leadership teams, like Virginia's, are working across their state's K-12, 2-year college, and university systems to formulate and implement solutions for the transition from high school to post-secondary mathematics. Additionally, the National Council of Mathematics Supervision recently released a position paper calling for closing the opportunity gap by creating mathematics pathways that lead to viable post-secondary options. How do the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative goals align with work already being done in the Commonwealth to advance equitable outcomes for all students?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the question. At the Virginia Department of Education, we have set a vision that we want to maximize the potential of all children. And our mission is to do that by advancing equitable work and innovating in our schools wherever we can. And so when I think about the Mathematics Pathways Initiative, it really is about maximizing student potential. It's looking at the opportunities that students are going to have after graduation. It's tailoring the math pathways that are created for our students so that they can choose mathematics learning in a way that is most relevant and real to them, and done in a timely way to ensure that they have success. We know that students that take 4 years of mathematics in high school are more successful in their post-secondary outcomes. And so finding ways to tie mathematics to a student's interest will keep them engaged in that work throughout their high school career. Ultimately, this is about equity. We want all students to experience high-level mathematics in a relevant and real-world way, and that's what this Mathematics Pathways Initiative will do. It will get more of our students into higher-level mathematics in a way that will keep them more engaged in the work, and therefore we believe that that will lead to great outcomes for our students. So we're thankful to the broad math community in Virginia and the work that's going on in the mathematics team at the Virginia Department of Education to make this possible, because I do believe that this is going to make systemic improvements to make math a more solid foundation in Virginia for the years to come. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, how will this change what mathematics instruction looks like in the future?
Well, we're so excited for this change. In the past, for the last 150 years, we've been doing this algebra sandwich, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and there's been content in there that, quite honestly, not all students need. It's just not essential content for what students are going to do in their life, for other math classes, for other science classes. And we've also found that there's some really important mathematical content that everybody needs that we weren't teaching anywhere. So we're so excited to really start from the ground up and develop these essential concepts courses. And we're going to do these in grades 8, 9, and 10. And in each of these courses, we're going to see interwoven standards, interwoven strands, some real intradisciplinary connections, as well as some really strong interdisciplinary connections. How can we make that connection to what students are doing in their science class, in their English class, in their social studies class? How can we make that connection? So when we develop these concepts, we are asking ourselves, what do all students need to know for high school mathematics by the time they graduate high school? We're going to develop these rich, strong thinkers that are going to prepare them for whatever they want to go to beyond. Whether they want to do the rich, pure mathematical pathways of calculus in high school, whether we want to focus more on geometric ideas for architecture and design, whether we want to focus on statistical ideas, whether we want to prepare for STEM fields, for direct entry into the workforce. We're going to be preparing students that can do any of those things that they want to do in 11th and 12th grade.
That sounds great. And I love the fact that you talked about the importance of statistics. It seems like, with a lot of people moving towards calculus, we often forget how important those statistics are. So it's really great to hear that we are making sure that we embed that important piece more thoroughly and in a conceptual way. Can you talk a little bit about the foundational concepts, even before we get to the essential concepts?
Sure. So we're going to have common mathematical experiences for everyone through grades kindergarten through 7, where they're developing that mathematical thinking that's going to be so important to get them ready for the essential concepts. So students are going to have that common experience going through kindergarten through grade 7, continue with common experiences in grades 8 through 10, to give everybody this really strong foundation of the mathematics that they need in K7, the essential concepts that are important for whatever they do beyond that. And then when they get to grades 11 and 12, they'll be set up to follow any of the pathways that they want that will prepare them for whatever they want to do beyond high school.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited about this work.
Well, I want to start by saying actually what's not going to change. Students still can get to calculus. They still can get to IB courses and AP statistics. Those things aren't going away. And if you look at the bottom of our infographic there for the 11th and 12th grade years, AP, dual enrollment, IB, some of those rich courses that people see currently as the pinnacle of math are still there. They're not going away. But what I'm really excited about is that we have the opportunity to expand that significantly. So we have a lot of half-credit modules that students can mix and match and put together. We live in a world where memorizing formulas is not as important as being able to deeply apply the mathematics and be able to communicate their mathematical thinking. And currently, our system really emphasizes that robotic ability to perform lists of skills or do calculations. And so we want to set up those courses such as data science and math modeling and financial aid modeling. Those are the courses that are going to prepare many of our students for their future goals. Some students are still going to be prepared with calculus if that is the direction that they're going to be going in an engineering track or something like that. But if we think about an architect, they would do much better with a mathematical modeling and some geometry and design and some discrete mathematics. Those combined courses would probably set them up better for their career. If we think about somebody in the computer science field, some of the discrete mathematics for computing and the sets and logic and the computer science options, those are going to set them up for a better path. Somebody who is interested in art, we're going to give them a geometry that's going at a deeper, more focused level. Still mathematics, but it's one that's connecting with what they're doing. We want to track that forward and backwards. You know, as the students think about where their career is, what courses in 11th and 12th grade do they need to take to get them ready for that, or tracking forward, and that we want to start flagging and tagging different types of activities or projects as they're getting ready to think about what those 11th and 12th grade courses are. If I had one point to make about this project, it's really going to provide more opportunities for all students to explore rigorous math.
So what will these changes mean for students?
Well, for students, today's workforce requires them to have skills such as citizenship, creative thinking, to be able to communicate, collaborate, and to think critically. So this requires a redesigning of the Virginia Mathematics Standards of Learning. Students will have that opportunity to focus on an in-depth learning instead of acceleration, such as K-7 foundational concepts like numbers and number sense, computation and estimation, and then also moving on to 8th grade to 10th grade, essential concepts. So students can actually make connections and then to be able to apply the mathematics outside of the walls of the classroom. I truly believe that this would empower students to be active participants in a quantitative world.
So one thing that we often say, or we hear a lot, is that the math curriculum is a mile wide and an inch deep. And when you're saying that, I'm thinking, you know, we're really thinking about going deep. So if we think of an iceberg, for example, we know you just see a little bit at the top, which is kind of how we taught math before, but it's much more, it's massive underneath. So really digging deep into content and making sure that kids have a great understanding. How will this work open opportunities for students who display a high level interest in mathematics and desire to dive deeper into mathematics concepts?
What I love about the new Math Pathways curriculum is that it recognizes that pursuing calculus is not the only way to dive deeper into mathematics. There are a lot of very interesting and high demand branches of mathematics beyond calculus, including data science, modeling, geometry and design, statistics. By developing a deep understanding of core concepts in grades 8 through 10, each one of these pathways, including the traditional calculus track, can delve into deeper mathematical concepts and make connections with other disciplines through real applications. This approach will allow teachers to head off that question of when will I ever use this by demonstrating how math is used in fields of students' interests. In the grades 8 through 10 concept courses, we're going to tag activities so that when a topic is covered is actually a preview of one of our advanced concept courses, then students know that they should look into taking that course in their 11th and 12th grade years, something that really aligns with their interests. When the curriculum is designed with options covering a variety of student interests, STEM and non-STEM, the content becomes more relevant for students and it motivates them to investigate the field with more rigor. So for those who are pursuing fields requiring calculus, having a rich rather than rushed understanding of the essential concepts in 8 through 10 will result in better performance in those calculus track courses. And that deeper understanding that's covered in 8 through 12 for all students will result in better transfer of knowledge and success when they go to college or pursue a career.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's interesting because of one of the things that you said as far as, you know, getting kids away from the idea of when will I ever use this and helping to ensure that when we instruct, kids understand the connection to everyday life, the real world, and they're able to transfer that into what they end up doing in the future. So what work has already been done and who's been involved?
We started with first exploring the opportunity for change through the Catalyzing Change book study, as well as developing a leadership structure that represented people both in K-12 and outside. So really building the case for change and the structure to help us explore that change. And then our subcommittees worked on creating a framework for the essential concepts of mathematics, which would span grades 8 through 12, as well as pathway opportunities for students in grades 11 and 12 that will better meet the higher education and workforce needs. What's really exciting about this work is that the level and amount of stakeholder engagement is amazing. Whether it's part of the leadership committee or the subgroups, over 70 different people have been engaged in that foundational build. That includes people from higher education, people from teacher preparation areas, K-12 leadership, math leadership, as well as faculty. So it is not a couple people sitting around a table creating this work. There are 70 people that are bringing this proposal to us for consideration. In addition, the stakeholder outreach is amazing. So we have already outreach to the Virginia Council of Mathematics Specialists, to the State Council of Higher Education, which oversees all of your universities and colleges, to the Virginia Community College System, as well as the Virginia Department of Education boards. And so over 200 stakeholders in those groups have reviewed our proposals and given us feedback on how we might better serve the students of Virginia.
Wow. So what are next steps?
The next steps that are really important are about continuing to outreach to different stakeholders and constituents of this work. So it's important to hear from students, parents, teachers, administrators, the workforce, higher education. And it's not just about giving information, it's about having dialogue. It's about the leadership of this project, learning more from what people are thinking and reacting to what they learn about this project. So we'll be gathering feedback from all the different stakeholder groups. We'll be vetting this work. And really, most importantly, working through how do we change how we do business in our roles in education. So whether it's how you're scheduling students, or whether it's how colleges will admit students into college if they have different math courses than what they have now. These are all types of things that we have to think about as we outreach to the different stakeholder groups. So it's really about thinking about the impact of our changes on all future classrooms and the workforce. So we encourage all of you to want to learn more, be a part of the conversation, and seize any opportunity that you can to learn more and give us your feedback. It's very, very important. Thanks.
Thanks. It sounds like we want to make sure that everything is good and that we're doing it right. So,
yeah, thank you.
What are next steps?
The next steps for the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative dovetail very nicely with the revision to the mathematics standards that's traditionally scheduled every 7 years. So the next one would be in the year 2023. So that gives us a lot of time to put together teacher committees to start to think about planning curriculum, to talk to the Board of Education and go through the process that they require to have standards revised. And then to think about what does a crosswalk year look like once we do adopt those new standards, and how do we implement those in the classroom, and what supports teachers might need. So all of that work is really ahead of us. It's exciting work. We're very excited about the initiative. We know that it's in the best interest of students, and we very much look forward to involving many stakeholders in this work to make it the best that it can be.
Now that you've heard from these great leaders, I hope that you're excited about the vision of the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative. As you can see, the goal is for all students to have a rich and rewarding experience and to grow as mathematicians during their K-12 experience. Everyone is a math person, and all students deserve a rigorous mathematics experience that builds depth of knowledge, critical thinking skills, and that is applicable to what they're going to do later in life. As we continue this work, we look forward to hearing from you and keeping you informed every step of the way. Thank you, and goodbye for now.